The preparation is super unique. We've almost had now a year of prep. It has allowed us to connect even more and understand each other's attributes even more.
This is Legends with Bevo. Thanks to Anytime Fitness Glenelg, Renelec Electrical Services, Tiger Tennis, and SMS Gas Installations.
Hockeyroos superstar Jane Claxton, great to have you on Legends with Bevo for a chat. Now, over there in Perth at the moment, how's it all going? And originally from Adelaide, we'll get to that in a moment, but how's it all going over there in WA?
Yeah, definitely originating from Adelaide. But yeah, WA, it's piping hot over here at the moment. I think it's 37 degrees today, but perfect weather to be preparing for a very humid and very hot Olympics. So I couldn't ask for more, I think.
And Adelaide girl, born and bred, what made you move over to Perth and how do you find the difference between living in Perth and Adelaide?
Yeah, so around 8 years ago, I got a scholarship with what was then the AIS and now has migrated to Hockey Australia. And as part of that, uptaking that scholarship, we were asked to relocate to Perth. So, yeah, I packed up my bags as a 20-year-old and shipped my life over to Perth. And, yeah, I've been here ever since. I think it's very, very similar to Adelaide in terms of the laid-back family kind of atmosphere. And so I've slotted into life over here, I think, pretty well.
And in terms of your career, you've done so much for someone so young. You've been to Olympic Games, you've been to Commonwealth Games, and you've been involved in World Cups. Over 100 games you've represented Australia in. Talk to us through some of your highs and lows of your career so far, Jane.
I definitely don't feel as, well, I'm considered old, I guess, in the team now. I'm 28.
Jeez, you could pass at 21.
I remember coming into the team and the 28-year-olds seemed like ancient grandmas, and now I'm one of them. But yes, thanks for calling me young. It's been an incredible ride. I think you get trapped in the bubble of being an elite sport and don't normally celebrate how unique and great your life and life achievements actually are for such a young person. And so I don't really often reflect on what I've done and how incredible that actually is until I guess I talk to people like you or people that are not in the elite sport realm and they discover maybe what I've achieved and you realise maybe you should take a step back and celebrate sometimes. But, yeah, some of the highlights, as you said, in Olympic Games, it's hard to come by. Achieving more than that. And whilst we didn't get success at that Olympic Games, it's definitely one of those elite athlete goals that I think everyone that has a chance to go to an Olympics wants to achieve. The second one would probably be I captained the Hockeyroos in a home game in Adelaide, actually against Japan back in 2016 after the Olympics, and that was probably a huge highlight for me, not only in front of my home crowd, but being able to captain I guess, team in Australia was, incredible. Some of the low lights, I guess, losing. Anytime I lose, I'm too competitive. Even at training, if I lose a game, I'll be notable for about 2 days afterwards. So, I think it's, those are the moments where you struggle the most is when success isn't coming easy or you take a blow, such as injury. I've been very fortunate. The only major injury I have had was when I tore my hamstring off the bone in 2018. But yeah, so that was a learning curve for me, a different dynamic being in rehab and not being on the pitch and doing what you love. So yeah, I think that's probably a good summary of highs and lows.
And obviously the Tokyo Olympics is just around the corner. It's happening in July this year. And there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not it will go ahead. And the Tokyo locals aren't too happy about it going ahead, which we can kind of understand. We spoke about this off air, but let's hope it does go ahead. And if indeed that does happen after, the 12 months you guys have had to go through with it being postponed, of course, how's the preparation going? And, how we're looking for 2021, the chances of the Hockeyroos winning a medal?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, it's a high-risk scenario and you don't blame the locals for having apprehensions about it. A lot of foreign people coming into one country. The preparation is super unique. We've almost had now a year of prep, which normally we would probably only have 6 months, having only just released our team and then heading into an Olympic year, whereas now we've been able to maintain the same squad over nearly a 12-month period, which is super unique. It has allowed us to connect even more and understand each other's attributes even more. Yeah, it's an unknown dynamic to be heading into, because usually in hockey we would be having our, international league leading up to where we're traveling to various countries, completing our pro league games. Whereas now, us and New Zealand are probably the only countries that will not have any international games leading into the Olympics, purely because of our travel restrictions compared to Europe. And so that is a crazy concept, I guess, for us to manage, because we use those games to kind of sort through our game plans, our structures, and connect with everyone in the team. So to be heading into an Olympics with the prospect of only playing the under-18 WA men's team is going to be unique.
Yeah, that's obviously a challenge in itself. Is there any possibility of playing against New Zealand then a couple of games, in terms of a warm-up, so at least you're getting that sort of competitive games against another really good side in New Zealand?
We are really hopeful, and I think only yesterday there was a news report, I think, that came out about the Trans-Tasman bubble, and we are praying that does happen. But as you know, it's so unpredictable and we can't plan to have those games under our belt. So we're almost planning for that not to happen. And if it does, that's a positive. And we really hope it does, because they are such a compatible side to us. They're super competitive. We're often interchanging wins and losses. And so it's definitely quality games if we can get them up and running.
There's always that rivalry between Australia and New Zealand, whatever sport it is, I think. So even if it was marbles, I think we'd be competitive with each other. So
yeah, definitely.
And in terms of the Olympics being postponed, Jane, how did yourself and the team react, and how have you dealt with the last 12 months with that postponement, which is such a rare situation?
Yeah, the postponement itself came as a bit of a shock. I think we hit March, and rumours started appearing about COVID, and then suddenly we're in a lockdown and didn't really have much time to comprehend what was happening. And I think it wasn't until late last year, once the time frame of the Olympics had been and gone, that you realised, wow, I have a whole 8 months ahead of me where I'm going to be having to put in the hard yards again and be preparing and being in that same mindset of, again, for this next 8 months. And that's incredibly exhausting. Like, we're not in that primed, highly physical, at our best physical state, all year round. And it is only for a finite period that you can be in that physical state, because it's just not sustainable. And so, yeah, I was worried personally just how mentally you can persist for that long and just hold on to that hope. Because even late last year, we weren't sure the Olympics were going to go ahead. Yeah, it's been an incredibly difficult journey, I think, for a lot of us in Hockeyroos, just to mentally stay engaged and staying on board that kind of Olympic dream, because you can easily jump off ship and just get distracted, because it's so hard to maintain hope in something that you just have, there's so much uncertainty. But I think now that there has been confirmed and we're going, and it's almost renewed our, energy heading into this year. So that's incredibly important, I think, for our team especially, is that we know what's happening. And so now that's one box ticked and we can move on.
And imagine winning a gold medal, it would just be even more special, wouldn't it, considering all you girls have been through, or all of us have been through the last 12 months.
Yeah, I know. What a great story to be a part of, You hear all the great Olympic stories over the years, whether it's in swimming, whether it's in basketball, what have you, to be one of those legendary stories in years to come, to tell our kids, to tell the next generation of Hockeyroos, it would be pretty special.
And your love for hockey, when did that sort of begin? And what was it about the sport of hockey that you really sort of became passionate about, I suppose?
I am a part of probably one of the hockey craziest families I think exist. Many people meet my brother and my dad before they meet me, and because they're so heavily invested in hockey. My brother's actually an international umpire, and my dad, he still plays hockey and represents Australia in the over 70s.
Oh, wow.
But also is such a huge, volunteer role within hockey, not only within Australia but the Oceania region, and developing it in the island nations. And yeah, he's given back so much of his time. I think pretty sure it's never paid, and just to see hockey grow. And so he's, I think, been on pretty much every board in every meeting, coached nearly in every state of the country. So he's definitely one of probably the biggest hockey badges I would I would know. So that's how I got into the sport. You follow along on the weekends when Dad was playing back in the day when I was a little kid, and you just got given a little hockey stick and hit around on the sideline and all of those things. So a huge aspect to my passion for hockey right now is because of seeing Dad growing up and how much joy it gave him.
And we've seen a lot of women in recent years change from, whether it be basketball to AFLW, or obviously we've seen Ash Barty play tennis and to cricket, then back to tennis. And has there ever been a situation where you thought about changing sports as well? Have you always sort of had that passion for hockey?
If I ever changed sports, would be to another team sport. I like that kind of camaraderie and reliance on other people, and also celebrating with other people. When I was growing up, I actually did a lot of individual sports, swimming, tennis, running, cross country, and I always came down to the fact that I was by myself. And when you win, it's just like, I can just celebrate with myself. And so that's what drew me to the team sports to begin with. But I've gotten, obviously when you're younger, you can play netball and basketball and height doesn't matter. There's only maybe a few kids out there that are ginormous and the rest of you are like, we're all tiny, it's fine. But now, obviously when you're an adult, height plays a huge factor. So I probably couldn't move into those sports no matter how hard I tried. I'm also not great with a footy, so I would have to do a lot of training if I wanted to progress into the football realm of things as well. So whilst I'd probably try really hard, I don't think I'd be very successful at anything else.
Hey, you never know. You've got that fitness already being a midfielder in hockey, so that could help
just
you.
Run away from people. But the thing is, bouncing a ball and all of that added pressure, that's a lot.
You're doing very well in hockey, so keep that going. I think you made a good decision there.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you're also an ambassador for Utonic, and I've got to give a big shout out to Mads and Michael for organising today's interview with yourself. Tell us more about sort of how you became involved with Utonic and what you love about being involved as an ambassador.
Yeah, so I guess what I always think about whenever I'm getting involved with a business is, I guess as an athlete, many different kinds of companies approach you to be partners or provide you with some type of endorsement or sponsorship is like, does it align with my values? And one of the huge things is that I want to align myself with local brands and companies that are, I guess, family orientated and they grow from that aspect. And so I guess you look at a brand like Utonic, it's based in Adelaide, my hometown. It's a small business that's growing so rapidly, but it's built off a family base and they have such great people involved that are passionate about what they're doing. And so I think all of that kind of combined into me saying yes and wanting to be a part of the team and being a really proud ambassador of that. And I think since I've come on board, they've had so many other, I guess, ambassadors, athletes and alike getting on board as well. So it just shows that quality brands attract quality people. So, yeah.
You've answered that very, very well. I'm sure Michael and Mads will be happy with that.
Yeah, tick the box.
Yes, exactly. And also something we were speaking about off air, this is a huge achievement for yourself. It took you 7 years part-time to finish your studies and you're an OT, occupational therapist. Speak about that and sort of what you love about being an OT, Jane.
Yeah, as I said, it was a mighty struggle and it took a long, long time to get to the end of a degree. But that was one of my main targets before I left hockey is I wanted something to go into. When I was initially finishing school, I applied to be in physio and I initially got accepted into that, but decided it wasn't quite the perfect fit. And I came across OT. I didn't really know what exactly it entailed at the start because when I was coming out of uni, it probably wasn't a super popular field of practice. But yeah, I started up in Adelaide through UniSA, did my first year there and I really enjoyed it. It's such a degree where you're constantly engaging with people and you feel like you're making a huge difference in their lives, whether it's if they're struggling with a permanent disability and you add a simple daily aid into their life that makes opening a jar possible and they can be independent and eat and bathe and dress themselves independently. Like that's such a huge thing you can do for someone. So that kind of sparked my interest the first year of uni, and I've persevered with it since and transferred over once I moved to Perth to Curtin University. And at the end of 2019, managed to finally finish my degree thanks to my current employers. They provided me with a very, very flexible placement where I think some days I did 1 day a week and then I would jet off to a game in Sydney or what have you. And so very, very fortunate to have been able to come across a company like ProCare who supported me through the end of my degree and then ended up employing me at the end of it. So, yeah, but it's a crucial thing in part of my life to have something outside of hockey. So that's always a driving factor behind, I guess, completing my degree and now working.
Excellent. Congratulations on obviously finishing that degree firstly and then being able to balance it with your Hockeyroos stuff as well, because that must be very difficult, no doubt. So, yeah.
To say the least.
All right, we're going to have a bit of fun now, Jane. It's time to dish it out on some of your teammates. Who are some of the funniest teammates at the Hockeyroos or the clubs that you play for, and why?
Funniest teammates. It's always a hard one because it ebbs and flows, I think, especially in girls' teams, depending on what day of the week or month it is. We all have a bit of, I guess, a good banter between everyone. But there's a few names that come to mind, like Kalindi Comerford. She's just recently finished her law degree, so is a super smart cookie. So definitely makes some very witty remarks to everyone. Coaches are not immune to her either, but they're always kind of like funny to have around. And there's also the likes of Rosie Malone, who I think her laugh alone, I think, lights up a room. She just is, I don't understand how she makes that sound when she laughs, but it's those types of people that I think put a smile on your face each day and make training and the day in, day out monotony of it a little bit funner.
That's why I actually agree with what you were saying before about team sport, because I played footy for over 20 plus years and other sports as well in terms of teams. And yeah, the banter is just one of the best parts about it, I reckon.
Teasing people, like it's all fun and games and we all just do it to pass the time. But it just makes such a huge difference to how much you enjoy doing a sport. It's not easy training day in, day out, pushing each other and always constantly improving. But those moments where you get to, rip into someone every now and then, I think is actually really unique to team sports.
And you touched on it as well, having each other to push each other, because it does get really hard. And like I mentioned, playing footy, like there's been times where you feel like your body just can't go any further, but having your teammates there to push you, and no doubt hockey is exactly the same. It just makes you push that bit harder, doesn't it, for success?
Oh, most definitely. And I think I'm one of the most competitive in our team. And so I think even if I had my one leg falling off, but we had to do a sprint race, I would somehow beat everyone no matter what I had to do. So, and that kind of competitive rivalry isn't there when I think we're all by ourselves. And we realised that during COVID when we were all kind of independently doing our running programs, meeting the times, but we weren't really pushing, I guess, too hard. And then once you got a few of us together and you did a running program, suddenly people were vomiting and just changes the dynamic completely.
Well, we might see you on SAS Australia one day, perhaps, Jane.
I would love that. Yeah.
Or the Amazing Race, awesome. Perhaps. And also in terms of yourself as a sports person, what's been, I guess, one of your more embarrassing moments in your career?
There's so many. There's truly embarrassing moments where, like, I think it was actually after Rio Olympics, I got very, very, very ill, and just the hilarity of things that happened to me in that space of time where I had gastro and it was just enormously challenging, and you lose a lot of dignity in those moments. But talking of gastro, recently at the end of last year we had a team camp where we had people fly in from interstate, and it was basically a selection camp, and one of the coaches, her parents hosted us for dinner one night, and we were amazed of the generosity, and we had a game the next day, so everyone was throwing banter around at each team member and what have you. Anyway, during that night, I woke up and I was like, oh, God, something's happening. And I know I just dismissed it and rocked up to the game the next day. And then so many other people started going, oh, like, are you feeling okay? I'm not feeling very well. And there's just suddenly mid-game gastro hit, I reckon, 20 people on the field.
Oh, my goodness.
And you just had people running off the field, teams playing with less numbers because all these people were just getting slowly sniped down by gastro.
What?
And then over the next 24 hours, it was just hilarious seeing our group chat about updates of people's medical condition and very gory images. And so we laugh at it now, but at that time, I think we all thought we were dying.
Yeah, that would not have been fun. Like you said, you can laugh at it now, but at the time,
yeah, but yeah, that coach hasn't lived it down. We constantly remind her of it. Poor girl. But yeah, it was funny in hindsight.
And before I let you go, Jane, 3 famous people that you'd love to have dinner with, whether they be alive or dead, and why?
I'm probably more of a sporting nut and would want to say someone like Michael Jordan.
Good choice. That's mine. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's on most people's lists. Kobe Bryant, just because I think, who wouldn't want to have dinner with him after such an incredible career and how he left?
Yeah.
Probably Barack Obama. I think he'd be pretty cool.
Good answer.
Or Michelle, both of them, if they wanted to come together, that's okay. I think, 2 great people, 2 great minds. Be lovely to pick their brains about everything.
I think you've answered that very well, considering you're being put on the spot there, Jane. So.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us today on Legends with Bevo, Jane Claxton. It's been an absolute blast. Wishing you and the team all the very best for Tokyo this year, and we look forward to following your progress and hopefully chatting again after the Olympics, celebrating a gold medal for the Hockeyroos.
I know. I really hope so too. We've waited long enough, so why not win a gold medal?
That would be amazing. So thank you once again.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.